welcome to our latest camera review. Today we're doing a review on the Blueskysea B2W dual lens dash camera. So just to go through over a few things. So the company has sent this camera out to me, asked me to do a review on it. In the video description you'll have a link to where you can go and buy the camera on Amazon. I'll also put it up in the first comment in the comments section. So if you watch this review and like the camera, you can go there and click on the links and go and purchase the camera. Quick disclaimer, I'm not getting any money or royalties or anything for any of the purchases. Doesn't matter if you go and buy one or not, I don't get anything out of it. I've just been sent the camera and asked to do a unbiased review on it. We'll go through some sample footage here, and I'm just going to run you through a few of the specs on the camera, and then we're going to have an unboxing where I'll go through all the individual components and show you how the camera works and run you through how the app works on the camera. So this is a dual lens camera. For those of you who aren't familiar, there's two lenses on it, one forward facing and one that can be used to record on the internal cabin or inside of the car. So the good thing with this camera, so it records these two in two separate blocks. So when you are recording and you check the memory card, you're going to have two separate files, one for the front, one for the rear. There's various settings you can have for the file size as to what you want. The camera records in 1080 full HD, and then depending on the setup you have, if you're running just the front camera only, or whether you're running the rear camera, it'll change the frame rates and a bit of the resolution, which we'll cover later. I've run the camera for a couple of weeks now and had no issue with it. It's recorded, all works perfectly, and it actually does a good job of when you are running the front and rear camera that the video quality doesn't really seem to suffer. To be honest, I could probably show you different samples of the front cam and you wouldn't be able to tell if I was running both cameras or not. But that is one of the good things with these camera. If you are in the market for a camera, you can buy this one. If you don't necessarily want to use the internal camera, you don't have to. The internal camera is really great if you're a taxi driver, Uber driver, any kind of ride share, and you want to record the internal to see what's going on, check applicable laws in your state. However, it's also handy, especially with this model, that the camera can actually be rotated and actually look around all different parts of the interior. So you can actually even have it pointing out the side of the car, as you'll see in some sample footage, which makes it very versatile. The other reason you may think, well, I don't need a dual lens camera because I don't want it recording on the inside, I don't want people to see me. Well, here's the thing you actually may not be thinking about. When you have this running as the internal camera as well, you've essentially got a front and rear camera. It can actually then pick up if someone still does hit you from behind or from the side. If there is a car crash, this will actually still be recording it. Various other examples of why you might want this running. You may not necessarily want to share the footage on a public forum of the interior of your car, but it'd be very good for accident and other purposes. For example, if you had a car accident, the other person was accusing you of being on the phone or not having your hands on the steering wheel or something like that, not paying attention, you can say, no, I've got the footage proving that I wasn't breaking any laws. It can also be, you may get pulled over by police saying you weren't wearing a seatbelt or you're using your mobile phone, etc. You can say, no, I've got footage proving I wasn't. So even though you may not want to share the video publicly, it's a very good idea that if it's recording on the interior as well, it's there to protect you in all those kind of events. So, you know, some people may not see the benefit of an internal camera, but there's a lot more if you think about it. It's a very good to help protect yourself. So that's one of the reasons why I have been doing a lot of reviews on dual dash cams, because they are a good idea. Good thing I like with this camera, another positive, it has a 2-inch screen on it, which I found was good. Some cameras have really small screens, and I find that they're not the nicest things to use. They're not very user friendly. So the 2-inch screen definitely helps. This camera you can have a 24-hour parking mode on both cameras. That comes with an additional power cable that we'll show in the unboxing, where you can plug it into permanent power in your car. That little extra cable comes for around $20. So for an extra $20 you can buy that cable and connect it in, which you'll see in the unboxing. The camera itself, the price of the camera is $139.99. That's on the Amazon main site. If you're buying it from other places, check on the price. If you're buying this in Australia, depending whether you're getting it from the Amazon link or a few other sites, it's roughly around the 200 in Australian dollars for the camera. And then it's around $20 for the GPS module if you want that. It's one of the good things that they are doing with these cameras. If you want to run GPS and have your speed and location shown, there's a little extra module which we'll cover in the unboxing, and you just connect it into the camera. But if you don't want it, you don't have to, and you can just save $20 off the price and don't get it with the GPS module. Same with the parking power cable. That's roughly $20. So if you throw those two together, you're looking at about $240 to $260 if you want both of those and the camera, and with an F32 gig SD card. So overall, that's pretty good value. One of the other features I like about the camera comes with two ways of mounting it. It actually has a suction cup holder and it has an adhesive strip. And as you'll see in the unboxing, some cars, such as mine, have the tinting, the dotted tinting around the rear vision mirror, and obviously trying to stick an adhesive or even a suction cup to that area isn't possible. So they actually have supplied with this basically a piece of plastic film which you stick onto your windscreen, and it then allows you to stick the camera onto that. So it then mounts properly, and B, you're not going to damage any of your tinting or your windscreen at all. So that'll be shown in the unboxing. It's another really good feature. So a few other things to go through. In using the camera, as I said, I've had it for a couple of weeks now. Very easy to use. The buttons on it are simple. The button to save footage when something happens there's two buttons you can press. It's got a nice big sort of emergency button on the top of the unit. So it's very easy to press, get to, and one little button press and it's done. So that's a really good feature. You can rotate the actual camera around, left, right, forward and back, and you can then rotate the two actual camera lenses that are on the bottom. So the rotation on all of them actually makes it so you can really adjust the camera to where you want. The camera is a very user-friendly unit. The menu and all the buttons are easy to navigate around. It's a very simple setup. There's nothing too complicated. They've made everything in very simple, easy to use menus. So overall, in that perspective, and the app that come with it, very simple to set up and just very easy to use. So the app, the camera itself, very user-friendly, was one of my sort of pros of the camera. The overall quality with the playback for 1080 full HD, it's using the Sony sensors in it. The camera is good. The picture quality is good for 1080. And daytime, nighttime pictures are all good. I did notice when I was doing some night, as you'll see in some of the samples, some of the night footage, the overall footage was very good, but I did notice I was getting a bit of flaring off a lot of the street lights. I did find if I adjusted the angle a bit, it did change it a little, but depending how you set it up in your car, if you do get that problem where you're getting a bit of, I guess what you would describe as flaring, where the headlights, taillights, street lights are projecting that light out from it, you may want to look at just adjusting the angle a little bit on the camera. The camera itself, overall, it's very light. The unit itself, because it is a dual lens dash camera and the way they've mounted it to have the 2-inch screen, it is a little larger than some of the other dual cameras that you would see on the market. So the unit is slightly big. Probably overall, to give you an idea of the size, it's probably about the size of a standard smartphone in terms of its height and width. So it is a little bit bigger, but remembering you've got two cameras in one and you've got a 2-inch screen on it. So if you want some really tiny little small discrete camera, it's probably not going to suit that. But if you're wanting the functionality, not the tininess of the camera, it's definitely okay from that perspective. The camera doesn't have a battery in it, so if you just want to note, if you do basically once the power to the camera is shut off, when you turn the ignition off, the camera does just turn off straight away. There's no battery in it. A lot of cameras now aren't using batteries. It's a trend I've seen with a few. They're either using capacitors to just slowly turn the camera off after you've turned it off, But with a lot of them, in order to have with the amount of power that it's needing, 2 cameras, large screen, GPS, you know, Bluetooth and Wi-Fi connecting to smartphones, the amount of power that it requires, the batteries are just drained so quickly that you'd have to have a very expensive battery in there to keep it functioning. So for the cost of it, a lot of manufacturers are just basically going away from having the batteries and just having it on a turn on, turn off function with the car, or having it connected to the car's permanent power. So, but just one to keep in mind, yeah, these ones, they don't have a battery in it. This is our Blueskysea dual lens dash camera. See, we have full HD 1080, dual lens, 2-inch screen, Wi-Fi. Some of the other quick specs on the camera. As we move to the actual camera itself, this is just an instructions on installing the mount. As you can see, this comes with 2 different options. You can use it with a suction cup, or you can use it with an adhesive mount, and I'll show you the 2 in a moment. So if you want to use a suction cup, you can, but this one's actually quite good. It comes with both options. So you have the suction cup or the adhesive sticker. And here is the camera. As mentioned, it's the dual lens. So it has a front one. You can see the adjustment allows quite a lot of play from where you want to put it. And same with the internal that comes with the infrared for the night vision inside the car. It can also be adjusted, so if you actually want it looking at the side. SD card, the reset button. Here's where you put the GPS module in, which I'll show you shortly. USB for power and connecting, microphone. Currently it's got the adhesive mount connected, and we'll go through changing that. Use. Okay, this one again, power for the accessories, and it also comes with an additional slot on top, so if you put it in your power source in your car, you've still got another one to plug your other charger in. Here's the suction cup mount, so if you want to use the suction cup instead of the other one, you can. Showing you with that. If you want to actually change them, just slot it off to the side. It comes off, just a little mount that way, and you can then install the suction cup in there, which we will actually use the suction cup because I'm going to install it in my car shortly. So rather than having to use since I'm only doing it temporarily while I do the test, we have the suction cup in there. You can obviously mount it different ways. It's a fairly decent suction cup as well. It's got a good little lock and unlock mechanism on it, so good quality. One other button I didn't touch on at the top, which is a good one. The actual button to save your footage when you want to is on the top. Nice little accessories I sent with you, a little adhesive, a spare adhesive for the windscreen. This little piece of plastic is a little crowbar, little plastic one to help tuck the cables in to the little headliner, along with our little adhesive stickers for the cables. And then got an additional USB cable to plug it into your computer. Here's a good one. I just want you to take note. You'll see in the manual, gives you a quick idea of how much this unit can take, up to a 400 gig SD card, which is good. A lot of them, even the maximum is 256, 128. At full HD 60 frames, tells you roughly how much footage you're going to get out of it. So that's their estimates, but that's a good guide. So on this unit, what they've actually given you, you can see in the instructions, these plastic adhesives actually match up, as you can see, to the area for the adhesive. So instead of sticking it directly onto your glass or any places, maybe if you've got any issue with that might have with window tint, I've actually given you these little films to put over. What does this say? They give you a little sticker. Warning, dash camera, audio video recording for security. That's good. I won't peel it all the way off, but it basically just says at the top. So it gives you a little sticker to put on your car with a picture of it telling you they're recording. Good little note. So as you can see here, this is the optional GPS module that you can buy with it. So if you don't want GPS, you don't have to, but if you want to, you can simply buy this little extra unit. Plugs in the side. You can run it through the headlining and then just have this little piece just sticking out along your windscreen. And then as you see, once you've got that attached, you'll have the GPS option. You can set it as kilometers and miles. Oops, back again. And you can then decide whether you want to have the speed on or off, the longitude, latitude, or you can have it off, whichever you'd like as a watermark. So it'll still show on the screen, but it doesn't actually show up on the camera if you don't want it. And then if you have a unit without it, simply take it away. So that is a little GPS module it comes with. The other unit that it comes with, this one is if you want to have permanent power on the camera. This little unit here is how you connect it to your car's battery fuse panel. There's instructions, come different setups you can use. If you're handy and you know what you're doing, you can do it yourself. Otherwise, if you're not, then you can take it to a auto electrician to connect it in for you. So that's another extra you can buy with the camera if you want to have permanent power to the camera, and you can then leave it powered up while it's parked. So going back to the camera, but your resolution settings, whether you want to have it as front cam or front and rear, and then what resolution you want to set on them. Loop recording, whether you want to record in 1, 3 or 5 minute blocks. Wide dynamic range, whether you want to have that on and off. Exposure compensation, you can have there whether you want to record audio or not, whether you want to have the time stamp on it or not. Set the time and date, what time zone you're in. London. We're not in London. Let's go on over to Sydney, Guam. We are in Sydney. The GPS we've covered. Display mode. Infrared control, language, screensaver. Put your plate number in, whether you want the beep sounds on or off. I've turned them off so you're not hearing beep, beep, beep the whole time. Default it. Format your SD card. And Wi-Fi, which we'll cover shortly. You can connect an app and do all these settings from the app, so we'll do that in a moment. Okay, so if you're going to want to use the app, if you're using, you can use it on iOS or Android. Just search for RoadCam. Oops, spell it right. Okay, so we have the camera here. Default will come up at the top there with its number. Go into your settings, connect to its Wi-Fi, and the default password's all in the instructions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And as you can see, camera is now connected by Wi-Fi. So you can then come into the settings here. All those settings I just ran through manually. sound recording, watermarks, G-Shock. You can set those settings in here. Doing it manually on the camera. Change between the camera configs. You can play back video. If you've got any photos stored, any tapping around on the fingerprints. And go back to recording. And then here, as you can see, are all the recordings. You can go back and replay. This is obviously all the testing while we've been doing. The loop records. And then when you push the button for the emergency save button, it saves them in there. So simple, easy to use, good little app. So just in summary, as I said, I've reviewed this, had this camera in the car for a couple of weeks now, run all the tests on it, everything's worked fine, I've had no issues with it. So just to do a quick summary of the whole thing up, camera is some of my things I liked about the camera. I like it's got the different types of mounting on it. The camera is very adjustable with its lenses, where it can look and how they can look, the interior, exterior camera. It can take a very large SD card. The quality doesn't really seem to suffer at all when you are running two cameras at once. So, you know, from that also is another pro. My few little cons, not even really cons, more just things to keep in mind. The unit itself does need to be mounted up high, and you do need to sort of adjust the angle of where you're going to have it. So you need to sort of be sure where you're going to want to mount it. The unit is, you know, I said, a little bit on the larger side, so if you are wanting some small one to tuck behind a mirror or that, if you actually don't want to be seeing it, just keep in mind it is a little bit larger than your sort of standard single front camera in comparison to, say, a Navman. And the unit, again, doesn't have any battery on it. It is just running off the car power. So they're probably the only things to keep in mind, but to be honest, there was no real negatives about the camera. Everything about it was good. I think all the accessories you get in the box with the camera that we covered in the unboxing, the app that it uses, and all the other parts, I actually think it was all, you know, very well boxed, very well put together. So there was no real negatives with the camera. If you're on the market for a dual lens camera, I've done a couple of reviews on some other ones. The links are in the video description and in the first comment in the comments section. So feel free to go have a look at those ones. You've got the Vantrue and the Viafo dual lens cameras. You can go and have a look at those two as a comparison to this one and see the sort of differences. But putting it alongside those, honestly, I think this one's on par with them. They all had their pros and cons, but if you're on the market and looking for a dual lens dash camera, I do recommend you go give this one a check out and see if it might suit your needs. If there's anything I didn't cover in the video or any questions you have, feel free to write a comment and I'll do my best to answer it. Thanks for checking out the video, and we'll catch you on the next one.